Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Central Queensland Storms forecast video update. Today, the 6th of February 2016. My name is Matt, and I'll be taking you through tonight's update. Right now, you can see there's a large area of rain and thunderstorm activity over parts of the Central Coast and Whitsundays and northeastern parts of the Central Highlands and Coalfields district. In the southern and central parts of the Central Highlands and Coalfields district, you might notice some light rain areas. These are only producing light rainfalls, with Emerald recording 9mm and further around Sapphire and areas just west of there recording around 10 or 11mm today. Further up here towards Glendon and on the ranges out there, we can see there's a lot of thunderstorm activity being out there. This has been building all day throughout this district, and parts of these districts have received over 30 and 40mm. There has been very isolated falls of 50mm, and further west around Ballyando there's been isolated falls of up to around 80mm. Down towards Moranbah, we're starting to see rain increase. Falls won't be as large as last night. However, we still may see the isolated areas of 20 or 30 or 40mm throughout this area, particularly just to the south and just to the east of Moranbah itself. This will worsen the current flooding there, so if you are trapped by the flooding, it is likely that the waters will not recede tomorrow, and they may rise slightly depending on how much rain falls over the area and on the upper catchment. Also around the Serena area, you can see there's a large, or a small I should say, area of very heavy rainfall again. This area here is near stationary. If that stays over the same area for an hour or two, we will see some very large falls again. This area here, right here around the Serena, is the area that copped it last night. It copped over 200mm of rainfall last night. That is a massive amount of rain. Over 200mm in parts south here, south of Mackay. Parts around Moranbah received over 150mm. Parts of Mackay itself received over 150mm. There were widespread falls over 100mm to the west of Mackay. Even up around Proserpine there were falls around 150mm, which is massive. Down here, of course, was the heaviest rain, with maximum falls did peak at around close to 300mm. As you can see here, there was a large amount of rain and storm activity in this area last night. You can see these are the last 24-hour rainfalls. There's been falls of widespread falls of over 100mm here. You can see by this darker blue colour. Then the really dark blue colour is over 150mm. There were some very isolated falls of near 300mm. As you can see around the Moranbah area here, there was over 150mm last night. And these falls stretched all the way down into northern parts of the Marinara and Warrego district. Some parts of the western central highlands and coalfields even recorded 50 to 100mm last night, as did areas west of Bowen, and again areas around the Burdick and Dam received around 50 to 100mm. Okay, it hasn't been as wet today, but the Bureau is still forecasting it to get wetter. This is the latest update issued at 6:35 PM Australian Eastern Daylight Time, which shows the Mackay area is still expecting another 100 to 150mm today, and the area around Serena, which has already been hammered, is still expecting another 150 to 200mm. If that comes off, the current flooding situation will be worsened significantly, and I mean significantly. We are talking 48-hour falls of close to 400mm in this area if this comes off. If that happens, well, you could be looking at some very major flooding, especially around Serena. However, due to today's a bit slightly drier weather, creeks may have started receding already, so it may not be as bad as if this continued constantly rainfall. Now, what are the models predicting for today? For tomorrow, I should say. So the models, the GFS we'll look at here, it's predicting, this is for 4 AM tomorrow, it's predicting rainfall totals around 35mm in 3 hours. Bit around the area east of St. Lawrence, probably around Shoalwater Bay and Williamson RAAF base. And those falls, they're not too significant, but they will continually fall on areas that have already been saturated in the last 2 to 3 days. By 10 AM we should start to see the falls contracting more offshore of around Mackay. There is some possibility of Yeppoon being looking at 15 to 20mm. However, most of the rain will have contracted offshore by then. By 4 PM, we should have seen the rain coming back onshore, and probably fairly light at this stage. We're only looking at 10 to 15mm at most. Further up here, west of Bowen, we're looking at falls of 15 to 20 millimeters. That's likely to be from thunderstorm activity. So what is the GFS predicting in total for tomorrow? As you can see, the GFS predicting the highest rainfall just sitting offshore of Mackay. This is sitting very close. We're talking Mackay looking at 50 to 75 to 100 millimeters. But about 25 or 30k to the east, they're looking at 150, 175 millimeters. This is imperative. If this comes over the Mackay area, that will worsen the flooding throughout that area. If it stays just offshore, Mackay will not receive as much rain as predicted here. But it's a very fine line. It's either going to be just offshore or just onshore. The models are a bit the models are not confused isn't the word for it. Models are a bit divergent on whether they want the rain to be sitting just offshore or just onshore. At the moment, the favoured scenario is for the rain just to be sitting offshore. I mean, just. However, there's nothing to say that it won't just drift onshore during the day tomorrow. Anyway, what is rainfall forecast for tomorrow? This is the Bombs Wattle forecast, which is an ensemble base which averages out the rainfall tomorrow. As you can see, the falls are much lighter than they have been forecast the last couple of days. It's still predicting the Mackay and very exposed coastal areas around Serena. And down towards Camilla, still looking at falls of 50 to 100 millimeters. As you can see, it's much more widespread falls of 50 to 100 millimeters just offshore. As I said, this could drift onshore and worsen the current flooding crisis. Around around Moranbah, you're still seeing 5 to 10 millimeters. That's not likely to worsen the flooding situation out there. And we're looking at very dangerous conditions down here. Okay, so how wet has it been in the last week? Here is the rainfall totals for the last 7 days. As you can see, it has been an absolutely drenching time for much of Central Queensland. Almost the entire Central Queensland has seen over 100 millimeters, as by this dark blue shading here. Or middle blue shading, I should say. The dark blue shading stands for over 150 towards 200 millimeters, and these widespread areas here of purple are 2 to 300 millimeters. As you can see, much of inland areas in the Capricornia district looked at 2 to 300 millimeters. The Moranbah area is seen around 2 to 300 millimeters, and parts around Mackay and Serena have also seen 2 to 300 millimeters in the past 7 days. This rainfall has been very widespread. The catchment, this has absolutely drenched the catchments. So any more rain that falls it'll just flow straight off the catchment. It won't soak in anymore. This has already soaked the catchments. So any more rain will not soak in. They will just flow away. Anyway, that's about all for now. As you can see, the rainfall totals are stacking up slightly. This area of rain over Serena stayed near stationary the whole update here. It's gone through another radar frame during the update. It hasn't really moved. I've seen falls up to around 25 millimeters in Mackay. We are expecting these falls around 45-50 millimeters out here to increase significantly over the next couple of hours. Possibly falls up to around 70 or 80 millimeters by around 10 p.m. Around Moranbah, you can see the rainfalls are easing a bit, so we're only expecting around 20 millimeters out there. And as you can see, it's only light rain around the Emerald region, so there's not too much more rain expected there. This rain probably will increase during tonight, however, it will probably move offshore as modelled during tomorrow morning sometime. The time it moves offshore is going to be imperative. If it moves offshore during the afternoon, the coast will receive a battering. If it moves offshore during the morning, the coast will still receive a fair amount of rain. We're talking 50 millimeters of rain. However, if it moves off in the 4 p.m. or later or in the afternoon, the coast could look at falls over 100 millimeters. That is the big difference. You could be looking at 50 or you could be looking at 100. It all depends on the timing that the rain moves offshore. That's about all for now. We'll continue updates in the morning and we'll hope we have a better idea of what the timings will be. That's all for now. Have a good night and stay safe, and if it's flooded, forget it.